We've got Kat King here, live in the living room. They are going to be playing at Boulevardia tomorrow night, 6 p.m. on the Elevate stage. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So we're talking to you today, but you've got a 5-piece band with you. I would love for you to introduce everybody.
Yeah, I'm Kat King. This is Derek Milias on guitar, Kara LePage on the keys, John McCain on bass, and Daniel Cole behind me on drums.
All right, so playing Boulevardia, this is going to be your third time playing the festival, right?
Yes.
So we've kind of had this running joke. I'm not really sure how it came about, Misty Monday, I think, but the last 3 years, I think we've been calling the Summer of Kat King. So I feel like Boulevardia is kind of the official, unofficial start of that. So happy Kat King Summer.
That is such an honor. Thank you. Happy Kat King Summer to all.
So what are you looking most forward to? I know, in the past, you've really made Boulevardia a big event. You opened for the Beths a couple of years ago. I think the first year you played, you had like a pool party theme.
Yeah. Our very first year, Daniel actually had the genius idea to try to shoot a music video at our stage, which I think really helped us pull a big crowd. And we had like the pool noodles and stuff in the crowd, and it really felt like a party at our first stage, which I think caught Chris's attention.
Yeah.
Then we got to play main stage the next year, which was the coolest opportunity we've had, opening for some incredible national bands. And this year, we're just super stoked to be back for the 10th year anniversary. I think it's really special that it's so locally based this year, just celebrating all of the incredible music that's being made in this city.
Is there anybody in particular you're looking forward to seeing this year?
Yes.
Cool.
Well, unfortunately, there are some overlaps that there are people I'm excited to see, but I can't see because we'll be playing. But excited to see our friends Hembry, who we've been recording with. Excited. Jomogi and the Jammers are awesome. Those are a couple off the top of my head.
And you'll also be performing with Katie Ginn and The Drive.
Yes.
Same stage, right?
Different
stage.
Illicit stage. I'll be playing guitar with Katie Ginn and The Drive. Obviously, I would say I'm excited to see them, but I'm excited to play with them.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really great weekend. So Kat King is an entity. I know, you like present the Kat King as a band, right? But it all started with you. You grew up in a small town in Kansas. You've been writing songs for pretty much forever, right? You wrote in your notebooks in elementary school. Your family all are musicians. Your mom led the church music. All of your siblings play instruments. Just wondering, how did that access to instruments, to other musicians, to kind of a support system, how did that influence what you're doing now?
I think absolutely. I am very fortunate to have had experience playing on a stage since I was very young, even if it was to a church congregation of 30 or 40 people. And my dad was the pastor of this church growing up, so that was his office, which meant it was my second home. So I could pretty much go to the church whenever I wanted to just bang around on the drums and play all the instruments that I had access to there. I think I definitely owe a lot of my growth as a musician to having access to that my entire childhood.
And your mom got you started playing piano, is that right?
Yeah, so she started teaching me and my sisters piano when I don't remember how young I was, and also got me started on my first E chord on guitar, and went from there.
So I'm sure you have plenty of stories of how your family has influenced you, but one thing I wanted to talk about was your brother. He taught you how to play drums. You used his laptop to learn GarageBand and upload some of your first songs to MySpace.
Yes.
Did you lose those songs when MySpace went away, or?
I mean, I lost them, yes, but I do have burned CDs, luckily, that still, like, I have, yeah, a handful of old CDs that I burned all those songs on. And I actually think I just found my brother's laptop in the attic because I live in the home he owns. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is my archive. So I need to see if I can charge it and get all those songs off.
I think it's time.
It's time.
So he also was in a punk band, and
Yes.
you said that helped you visualize your goal to become a performing musician. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we were from a really small town, but my brother, was the drummer of this band called On and Three. Shout out On and Three. I was their biggest fan by far. And I remember they played Battle of the Bands at the Granada in Lawrence. And I was like, I don't know, 3rd grade maybe, going. My parents took me to go see them perform. And it was like the best night of my life, getting to see them play. And I think because of that, I started forming my own little bands, and we actually applied to play the next Battle of the Bands, and we're all like in 3rd grade, and they accepted us. But then my friend's mom said no. She's like, you're not going in that environment yet. So we didn't get to play the Granada. I know.
Well, you've come a long way since then. So, but yeah, speaking of those little bands that you were in, a lot of people get started by doing solo songwriting, but your first venture was in a little band, 2nd or 3rd grade, called, tell me the name of the band?
Run to You.
Yes. So you formed that with a friend and your cousin, right?
Yes, I did.
And you taught your friend how to play drums, you taught your cousin lyrics and melodies, you wrote the songs, played guitar, is that right?
Yes. Taught them is generous. I knew shapes. And I was like, just try this or do this on the drums and see if it sounds good. So I thought I was teaching them. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your first gig because I really love this story. But before that, I also want to kind of set the scene around it. The whole story kind of speaks to how you've evolved in your role as a band leader, as a player, and as somebody who is very good at the business of a band. When I talk to other bands, I cite you as hey, she gets back with me with emails. She's always detailed.
Wow.
I appreciate, so you are the paragon of...
Thank you.
Yeah. But, DIY merch, for instance. How did you prep for that first gig? And I want you to set the scene of that first gig.
Okay. Yeah, so me and my 2 best friends, probably in 2nd or 3rd grade, with Run to You, our band, we were preparing for our first big show, which my parents graciously let us use the church for. And so it was a Sunday, and my parents invited the whole congregation to stay afterwards for the big debut of Run to You. So to prep for the show, we just cut blank pieces of paper and wrote tickets, the name of the show and how much it was, which was free. And I found this in my attic actually really recently. The tickets are still there. And then we also took just plain white shirts and used Sharpie and wrote Run to You and drew ourselves and wrote all of our names on the shirts. And then we cut the sleeves off and wore those as hats. So it was little elves almost. I don't know. It was an idea.
So punk rock.
Yeah. We got to bring those back. But yeah, so we wanted to make a grand entrance, and the church was set up to, there were 2 aisles on the side and 1 aisle in the center, and our idea was when we were announced, we were all going to sprint down the aisles to the stage, and we did it. And it was a hit, and then we got up there and we were terrified.
But you did it.
But we did it. We did our entrance so well.
Yeah. So do you ever have flashes of that when you play now? Because I can imagine that was a really formative moment for you, right?
Yeah, I kind of like forgot about it for a while because after Run to You, I was just solo and it was just my name for a long time. And I kind of like started to always think of myself as a singer-songwriter. And it wasn't until kind of recently I actually was like, wait, like I started as like a band. And that was always like what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a solo singer-songwriter. So it's fun to think back to that and like to see that I'm doing it now. It's like really cool. Yeah.
So can we ever expect a Run to You reunion?
Let me talk to my friends and see, see
No
if they're
pressure.
down.
So let's go back to your solo career. After Run to You, you started playing solo. You put out a few EPs. Your first EP came out when you were 14 years old, right?
Yes.
You mostly played solo. Your siblings acted as your backing band a lot of the time. So then you made the move from that small town to Lawrence, Kansas. Mm-hmm. And that seems like a time that exposed you to new music, really expanded your sound. How was that transition from making music in a smaller community where it seemed like you had a really good, tight-knit support system to kind of this bigger scene?
It was very eye-opening, very intimidating, because I was like the town musician growing up. There were more of us, but I was one really going for it. And then to go from a town of 3,000 to Lawrence, Kansas, was like, okay, I am a nobody here at the moment. And but it was also really exciting and really good for my. Like I don't know. I had some exposure to more alternative indie music, but definitely was behind in a lot of ways from what I was exposed to, which at first was really difficult for me. I like didn't really get a lot of the music happening in Lawrence. And granted, Lawrence has an interesting music scene, but it like totally expanded my expanded my
musical palette.
Yes, my palette. Thank you. And I got to. I was intimidated, but I wasn't scared to try to make my entry in. So I did end up meeting a lot of musicians. I met John. Like John was in the scene too in Lawrence, and also playing in a bunch of different bands there. He was probably one of the weird bands that I was like, "What is that? Like, what is that noise?" But yeah, I got to meet a lot of musicians. I started playing in another band when I was there, and got to have new musicians play with me that weren't my siblings, which was like really cool for me. And they like brought so much new stuff also. So it was like such a good transformative part of my musical palette, and like my songwriting started to change a lot in a positive way, I think.
Yeah. And you know, the first time I ever saw you play was at the Replay Lounge in Lawrence. I think you opened for Heidi Gluck, who I was playing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were doing a solo thing. I was like, who is this person? She's great. And here we are now, talking.
That's awesome.
But so you did make that transition from solo to full band eventually. You moved to Kansas City. I think you started with John and Daniel.
Yes.
So your first single as this full band was Don't Want to Lose in 2021. Tell me a little bit about how you met every member of the band. You know, you guys are so tight as a band. It just seems like it's just like the right fit. And how did you know that? Just take a chance, right?
That's a big question. Well, my partner actually officially gave John and I the introduction because they were friends. And John had also just moved to Kansas City, and he was looking for a band. So that was like a natural. We connected. He thought I was a country artist at first, but he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And yeah, so it was John and I for a while, and then I think I just did an Instagram call out, being like, who are the drummers in Kansas City? Because we need a drummer. And somebody sent me a video of Daniel playing with fire sticks, like live. Nice. And I was like, That's wild.
That guy.
Do you want to drum with me? We're not really that vibe, but you never know. But yeah, so Daniel was down to try out a practice with us, and we all like really clicked and wanted to keep expanding. We tried out a few other iterations to bring in like another element to our songs. We tried violin for a while, which was interesting, and some other guitar players. And it wasn't until I started working at a coffee shop where Derek was my manager, and we had a gig that our current fill and guitar player couldn't play, and I knew he was like wanting to play in a band, and I was like, do you want to maybe like try out a practice with us for this gig? And he was down, and then when he like actually came to our practice and played, I was like, this we need you for good. And he was down to keep playing with us. And then the four of us actually released that EP together before Kara entered the picture. But that EP had so much like synth added in and production and so many more vocals that we just like couldn't replicate live. So we were like, we really need a key player in the band. And I knew Kara from a previous band, Blue False Indigo. So I reached out to see if she was interested at all in like a second project, and she was down. And now here we all are. Yeah. And yeah, we've been playing now for like four years together, and I think, and we like make an effort to practice weekly if we can. So I think that helps with tightness, and yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and you've put out several singles since then, 2 EPs. What have they brought that feels central to your music? Like, was there something, did you feel like there was something missing before, or was it just kind of like, oh, I didn't know I needed that in my music?
That's a good question. I think the going from singer-songwriter was honestly like a bit of a sad experience for me. I was just sad in general, and to find musicians that I like love as people and they are my friends, that is like makes a huge difference. And they're down, like I feel so much more freedom to try out a lot of my like fun or I don't know, my weird ideas or weird song choices or whatever. They're all like down to try things with me, and I think that is like huge. And now like we're at a point too where we're doing more collaborative songwriting, which is also like so different for me, but it's really good.
Yeah, and I think there is that freedom in being able to be vulnerable with people who, you value not only as musicians, but humans, right?
Totally, yeah.
So I do want to talk about the new stuff, but I want to kind of go backwards a little bit. You've kind of become this darling of the Bridge. So we premiered, the first thing we did with you was premiering Song from Spain. So that was
oh my gosh,
all the way back in 2019.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you've kind of grown up with, like, your music has grown as we've grown as a station, so I feel like, I don't know, we're all growing together. Seems silly, but I really love how your music has evolved with this band, and just your approach to how you're looking at the world through relationships and through your emotions and the dynamics with it. So in 2024, you released Domestic Bliss, and that was your first full project with this band, right?
Yeah.
So that talks about the concepts and realities of queer relationships. This was your first time ever living with your partner, and I know the EP has a lot to do with kind of like the ups and downs of that, and normalizing queer relationships in a way, like kind of just something that's outside of the heteronormative narrative that we're hearing a lot of. And what I really love about it is this juxtaposition you make of like home and love and all of these things that are a safe haven, while on the other hand, the rights of LGBTQ people are continually in danger, and especially right now. So How did you approach that, and why did you feel like it was the right time to talk about that in your music?
I mean, when I write, it is typically pretty current inspiration. So I was actively like navigating living with a partner for the first time, which does bring a lot of new things to deal with. And especially, yes, as a queer person, there are so many extra layers that produce so much more anxiety with that, and like figuring out how to navigate that in the same home was like a very an intense process, like, and a good one, and like it was hard, you know. I think anyone living together for the first time experiences ups and downs. But I did want to, I think the thing about songs is like you can make something very generic, and writing a love song, if you don't put like pronouns in there, you don't know. And I wanted to write songs that were just like, yes, normalizing, like we are experiencing these same kinds of ups and downs as any couple does, and just like singing about it, because it is so, it's like, this is our normal life. And I wanted to just like we all relate here, and just kind of speak to that.
Yeah, and you know, as there is more representation in media of queer stories of people of color, other things like that, I think that opens the door for conversations, you know, because it's like these are universal things. Did you find that when you talk to audiences about it, did it resonate with different people? Did anybody have like new perspectives they found through discovering your music?
I don't know. I hope so. I guess I haven't talked to anyone outside of like the band and my friends about it. But I hope it did resonate with people beyond that. There's definitely like an element, coming from a small town, there's always an element of like fear with it, because I know how people in that town think, even though I know they also loved me. So there's, yeah, it was like a complex, it was like really great to just like try to not care anymore.
Yeah.
And like have a band that is super down for it all.
Yeah. And, you know, we appreciate you, you know, putting your heart out there. We know it's just like, you don't have to be specific with things, but I feel like it resonates with more people when you share your heart.
Yeah.
So now you're in a new phase.
Yes.
You have put out a couple singles this year, Somersaults, which we heard first. We're going to probably hear the other song afterwards. Yeah, I might like it. And
Yes.
You're going to be releasing 2 more songs this summer. You worked with Isaac Flynn of Hembry. Tell me a little bit about that experience. How did it maybe change the way you approach your songs, if it did?
Oh yeah, I mean, so we, before working with Isaac, we were just kind of recording mostly DIY with John, because John's a little tech guru back there too. We were doing a lot of recordings in his living room, and I was doing vocals in my house, and then we just kind of get all of our stems, and your garage, old garage. We'd get all our stems together and then send them off to our producer in Philadelphia. And then he would send us mixes back. And that was like, then it's so much emailing of like, make this part sound more woo, like, I don't know, trying to explain noises over email. It was not ideal. It worked for a budget, but we'd never gotten to all go into a studio together and work with our producer in person, and that was just like absolutely a game changer. Isaac, he helped us with some of our song structure and just like giving us ideas, and I know everyone's like had a really positive experience with him. I think if you have anything to add to working with Isaac. I mean, we love him.
Oh yeah, it's just kind of like having like a sixth member to kind of bounce ideas off of that. You know, we've been working on a song for a couple months, and we feel like we can kind of get set in our ways of like, we think this part's like so cool, and he'll be like, actually, like it'd be better if we strip this back or changed up some structures and stuff. So it's really good to have that perspective, and he's just also such a talented musician that it's really helpful.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, and I can imagine that deepened your chemistry as a band, being able to work in that setting together kind of for the first time, right?
Oh yeah, and I feel like truly we all co-produced these songs together because we were all adding ideas and making decisions, which was just awesome.
Yeah, and you know, from my standpoint, we've been playing those two songs and they've been stuck in my head in the best way possible.
Yes.
But what I think Isaac brings to your music is, like, he kind of brings the best parts of what you do forward. You know, you're such a talented vocalist, and he is able to emphasize that in a way that highlights it without making it look like grandiose or something like that. And just emphasizing the emotions, whether that's through a synth line or a bass line or a guitar lick or, you know, something that the drums are doing. Just like it's something that's really rewarding by the time you get to the end of it. So
that's great to hear. I'm glad you are also noticing. We're really happy with the process.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing more. You know, before we go, I want to talk a little bit about your live events. You're playing Boulevardia tomorrow. I feel like every time you put on a show, you make it something special. And one of those things is through your all-inclusive zombie prom that happens every year. Always sells out. Tell me about that, and also if we can expect one this year.
Yeah. So it really just, that idea happened because Derek and I were looking for outfits for a show like years ago, and we found these old prom shirts. And then you were like, what if we just like hosted a prom? And I was like, that's a fun idea. And so the first year we did it, we tried it, and it like had such a great response that we're like, we got to do it again. And so we did it again, and then the date we booked landed on Friday the 13th in October. And we're like, we've got to make this zombie prom now. And that that just like blew our expectations out of the water, the response that time. And we were like, well, okay, this is an annual event now. And it's kind of our big headliner show. It's a great opportunity for us to really show off what we want to show off, and then also get other Kansas City musicians or drag queens or whatever involved, trying to make it kind of a celebration night. That's also just a lot of fun. It's fun to have an excuse to just dress up and be ridiculous and be together. So you can expect another one this year, yes.
Yes. Well, and I love the idea that it's like this all-inclusive prom, right? Because for those of us who are queer and didn't really get to have the time that we wanted to have, and just being able to feel free and being in a room, being in a safe place with friends, putting on wonderful entertainment, you know, that I think that means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, that is also kind of the passion behind it, because my prom sure was not a fun experience.
Yeah.
Except when I won a TV. That was cool.
When you won a TV?
I won a TV, yeah. We had like an auction.
Well, that's pretty
so that
cool.
was awesome. But yeah, we wanted to make a space where it could just be, we could all just have fun, and there would be live music, and because my prom also didn't have live music. But and then we do a prom court drawing, which is just a very silly, fun part of the whole night.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to hear new music.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much to the Bridge for having us, and to all of you for being here. Yeah.
All right.
Now available on 90.9 The Bridge YouTube.